I'm 13 Disciple, and this is Coach's Corner, where I ask viewers to send me their quintessential average replay, and we break it down step by step, look at the decisions they've made in the match, and try to help them think in a different way so that in the future, maybe they can do a little bit better or improve just a little bit more. So, big shout out to Sergeant Rob for sending me this replay to review. Um, Pretty standard match, Progetto, and let's get into it. But first, I would like to point out this very important clown of a tank. Look at this color. This is gorgeous. You know, this reminds me of a Family Guy clip.
You're all stupid. See, they're gonna be looking for army guys.
Yes. You're all stupid. See, they're going to be looking for tanks. Okay, so the first thing I do is I take a look at the lineup of both teams, and I make educated guesses on where I think those tanks will be and how I can best impact the game. So first off, we'll take a look at the mini-map. Come down here, and we'll break it up into 4 zones. So we'll say this hill area over here is Zone 1. We have our kind of like middle brawly area. We'll call that Zone 2. We have kind of like this active scouting ridge that can sometimes include that dip there. And we'll call that 3. And then we have the sniper alley of the 1 line, which kind of includes a little bit of this brush here. We'll call that 4. So we're going to look at the tanks, and I'm going to make an educated guess on where I think these their enemy tanks will break up here. So let's look at the lineup. Oop. There we go. Okay, so first thing you can notice, there is no artillery. Whew, okay, so this opens up the map. It does make it a little bit more campy, but you can know there's no artillery. So, first observation, we have 2 heavy tanks. They are platooned. Where you see one, you are very likely to see the other. People that are in platoons generally work together. This light tank is in the same platoon. He might go to the same flank as them. He might not. Light tanks can serve a very mobile role, so we'll have to see in the match how that breaks down. Apart from that, since there's no artillery, it kind of opens up the battlefield a little bit. So I expect, if we just ignore the light tanks, I expect roughly half of these tanks to be in Zone 1, and half to be in Zone 2, between the mediums and the heavies, right? Zone 1 and 2. After that, we have Zone 4, which is your sniping camping zone. I fully expect the Scorpion, the STRV to be there. And it's possible these Tier 9s, they're assault tank destroyers. I could see them maybe trying to make a push up that line there, but it could really go either way. Who knows? I have no idea. The SU-101 is kind of in the same boat, just a tier lower. The STRV and the Scorp G could possibly be on top of the hill. Like, it's a 50-50 for most of these tanks. They could really play fine in either position. In the center of the map at Zone 2, I would expect some of these heavies and possibly some of these mediums. The STRV 81 is a good one to be there. So is the Cent 71, because you have relatively mobile hull down with strong turrets. But again, these tanks have a good advantage both at Zone 2 and at Zone 1. So that's kind of where I would break it down. So apart from that, if we go back to the map, where would I play in a Progetto on this map? So there's 2 locations that come to mind immediately. That would be right here at this bush line, and then playing this zone right here. You could play the 1 line, but I mean, you already have so many tank destroyers, and generally when it comes to proc, there's never a shortage of campers on the 1 line. So I always feel like playing there, unless I'm in maybe even an STRV or a light tank, I almost never go the 1 line. That's just my play style. I don't like waiting for the game to come to me. I like to be an active participant. So the reason why this area isn't too bad is because there's no artillery. So once you get spotted, all you have to do is back down the ridge and you're safe. What the center gives you an opportunity for is if they spot tank destroyers, you'll have shots there. For the opposing area here, you'll have shots there, and you'll have shots at the back of the hill or in this dip here. One thing to note, since there is no artillery, this dip is pretty safe for the opposing team to take. So if they have hull down, really strong hull down tanks, I would expect this to be taken pretty quick, and you'll need tanks over here to proxy spot that area. So personally, between these 2 points, if my Progetto crew has really strong camo, I would think about going here. If I'm starting to go that way and I see that there's a lot of tanks already headed that way, I'd probably audible and then just come up here. This spot is really strong because you have 3 different positions where you can impact the battle. It's also a good spot to be in heavy tanks because you don't really need to relocate almost at any point. So that's my thoughts on where I would go. Let's just see how this plays out. Let's rock and roll. So if you guys are interested in sending me your replays for reviews, try to make sure it's a pretty average game, something where you're like, yep, you know, I didn't really expect to do more, didn't really expect to do worse, you know, whatever. That's usually about where it's at. You can pop into my Discord. I've got a new channel called Coach's Corner. Upload your replay to whatreplays.eu and submit that to me. So what we just did in the beginning of the game was what I call my macro positioning or macro plays. It's where I look at the compositions and I decide where can I have the best impact in the game. Rob, right here, you've got pretty much a great spot. This is a good choice. This is an area where you will have a good impact in the game. One thing to be aware of, there's 2 areas here that you can play. You can play on this side. There's like this little bump right here. Okay, you can play on this side, you can play on this side. Depending on the gun depression, this doesn't always work all that well. But what you'll notice is your red line is just now touching where these bushes are. And sometimes if you play over here, you can use this soft cover here, or I'm sorry, this hard cover, which is destructible a little bit to kind of feather your shots through. You also get a little bit of soft cover from these bushes, but you'll have shots straight up there. If I'm in this Progetto, I don't know, pretty average accuracy, it could really go either way. I would play on either side. I would just try not to be on top of this hump, because if you're on top of it, you're easy shots from that hill way over here. So anyways, let's see how it goes. So we can see that we really have 2 tanks headed to the hill on the right hand side, that 0 line hill. It's not enough. Your T-49 is not giving you any spotting that's useful. So one thing I want to point out, if you are a light tank on this and you want to do an active run on this side of the map, one of the best runs you can do is come through here, get onto the middle ridge, and come through the middle of the city. Why is that a good run? Because you'll spot heavies and sometimes slower mediums that are crossing this way, and this gives your team a lot of information of what they're going to expect on the hill. By giving your team the knowledge of what's going to be on the hill, then they can kind of know if they've got enough resources dedicated over here or not enough at all, and you can react to that play. So let's keep going. That's a decent shot there. Nice job picking that off. You're spotted, so you back down because the hill is likely going to have shots on you. That was good. It was good not to be greedy and trying to get 2 shots in, because you knew as soon as he got hit once, he'd probably turn his turret. They have a light tank deep, which is somewhat unexpected, but it's not a horrible play. It will tell them how many tanks they have over here, and you should have opportunities to get up there and shoot at him. Which you do. You're on top of my pointed out ridge earlier. It's better to be in front of or behind it because you're less vulnerable. See, so if you're on the other side, you might have been able to hide quicker, or if you were closer to the T-54, you might have been able to hide quicker. You're reversing further than I would recommend because it's going to take you more time to get back into firing position. The only time that I would reverse this far is if there is artillery and they think I'm going to stop sooner, then I'll keep going or something like that, try to fake them out. But you probably didn't need to reverse that far. Again, you're kind of on the hump. I would be closer to the T-54. Should have aimed a little lower on that one, but that's, you know, micro play right there. So yeah, this micro positioning being a little closer up here would be good. Okay, so this is really bad news. Super bad news. So What trades did we just fail at here? I know you probably didn't pick it up. We took out their light tank and we lost our Lorraine. Not that great of a trade. The light tank wasn't really providing them a lot of information apart from proxying you guys. The Lorraine diving in to try and kill him was not a good trade for your team, especially that now you only have this Type 59 over here, and now you have two 703-2s. This is bad because once they get down into this area down here, into this pocket, they're going to be really hard to kill. Like super hard, and they can work this ridge no problem. I don't know what your Object 252 is doing. He should either be down here with you guys or up here with your Type 59. I fully expect these 252s to come into this dip and work this ridge here because they've got hull down, they can shoot this way, and they can proxy this for their team over here. So that's a really strong position. I fully expect them to take that, and that's going to be really hard to dig out. I think you're going to lose the zero line very quickly. That was a good shot. Yep, I would take as many shots as you have in your mag at this point in time, because once this Type 59 dips down or goes away, you're just not going to have any opportunities. You might as well get as many out as you can that you have shots on. Don't waste shots, obviously. Only take clean shots if you can. One thing that there is going on right now is you do have vision on these guys. Another reason why I like to work this side as opposed to hugging this. So I hug this if I only want to focus here. If you hug this side, you might have shots on both, okay? But you're also vulnerable to both. Keep that in mind. So right here, yeah, you might have had shots. There was a Scorpion there. He's dead now. You do have shots over here. So keep that in mind. Even though these guys are dark, you could still be getting some damage out, impacting this side. Right now, your Wizzy is throwing away his tank, doing a suicide spotting run. It's kind of working. You guys ended up taking out a 263. I think he ends up spotting the Scorpion. There's the GSOR. Maybe it wasn't the Scorpion. Maybe it was the 263 I saw that went down. Oh, now the Scorpion is spotted. So he's still back there. Yeah, see, if you're kind of like over in this side, you'd have shots. But again, you kind of got to split your attention. Was that a good trade? I mean, it was okay, but here's the thing. Vision on this map is a force multiplier. The reason why I say that is because if you have a light tank up here at the F1 bush or the E1 bush, somewhere in there, that light tank can provide vision on approaching enemies. If he doesn't fire and get lit, all of these guys will then have unreturnable fire advantages, right? They can take shots from concealed locations that won't get them spotted as long as they're using the bushes correctly. And that's like, you know, that's a tank of damage between all these guys in one shot each, right? And that's a huge advantage. So that's one tank of getting vision advantage. Like losing that light tank for one tank destroyer or two, there's an STRV dead too. Not a good trade. Not a good trade at all. Still not sure what your Type 59 went and did. Like, this is insane. Why? Okay. I understand what he did. It was, again, just not a good trade. So what he did is he went down into this dip so that he could proxy spot everybody on this hill. In theory, that's not a bad idea because you now have 3 tanks that can shoot whatever you're spotting. The problem is that when they realize what you're doing, all they have to do is drive off the hill. If they drive off the hill, they can 1v1 you without having returnable damage from the middle, and there's no artillery to back them up in the back. So this guy gets isolated and killed very quickly for almost no advantage. But I see here that you are trying to take advantage of his misplay, trying to get as much damage out as you can. Decent shots there. There's just not much you can do. Your team has completely lost the zero line. That's a lot of map control you guys no longer have. The 112 is pushed up, the 703s have pushed up. Your Type 59 is basically dead at this point. There's nothing else you can do. As a response to that, I see your 1 line pushing up. They say, oh, our 0 line is going down. We need to try and make a play on the 1 line. It's not a bad idea in theory, but you're still pushing into a GSOR, which has great camo and view range, and you know, several tank destroyers, some that are still not even spotted, that are probably over there. Yeah, this is looking like a pretty ugly match already. You're doing everything you can. I mean, you're bouncing some of those shots because, well, the location of those tanks. that hull down position. Your 112 is pushed in. Your T49 is falling back. So what do you do in this scenario? There's not really much that you can do. So if I could control every tank in this match, which obviously I can't, the best thing to have is for your T49 to come over here into these bushes here, or the E1 bushes. That'll give them a decent amount of view range in this area. Okay, that'll be your force multiplier. If anybody makes a bad play moving this way for that push, the T49 gets early spotting on him, and all these guys get under. Well, they won't all stay dark because not everybody has good positioning here, but a lot of them will stay dark, killing whatever it is that moves up. That's a good force multiplier. Technically, the game isn't lost yet, right? You've only lost 3 tanks. They've only lost 3 tanks. It's still even. The problem is that you don't have very much map control. So from your position here, there's really not much you can do. Once they have this area, the problem is that they can get up here, which will give them shots this way. They can get up here, which will give them shots all out here. I'm making a mess here. We'll clear that. There's not much you can do. You can continue playing this ridge, but once they get to where your T49 is, you can't play that ridge safely anymore because you can be shot in the back. So your next play is to either fall back to the A2 area, assuming there's somebody that can get lights here or somebody that can get lights here, or you can fall back to where your T54 is going and just try and proxy this ridge, staying as low as you can, because you'll still have, you know, shots that can come through the middle here where that Cent 7-1 is. There's not really much else you can do here. I mean, you want to try and maximize your spawning and your damage. This was a bad play. I'm sorry, Rob. This was a bad choice. Who knows? I pause it in the middle, so you might not, you know, I don't know how this will turn out for you. This might actually kill you. I don't know. You have all of these unspotted tanks that haven't been spotted in a while, some of which could already be set up on this ridge. They might be down in here. They might be in here. You have the Cent 7-1, right? This is a whole half of team that suddenly has shots on you, and you knew before you got up over this position that the 703 might have shots on you. I get what you want to do. You want to try and provide vision for your team, find out how many tanks are close enough to you from this area. Not a good play because you're so vulnerable, and even if you did spot a bunch of tanks out here, let's say you spotted every single one of these tanks, your team can't take any advantage of that. So there's no real reason that you need vision out here other than to say, oh, look, guys, we've completely already lost this side of the map. So my guess is you take at least one shot here. I don't know. Yeah, you missed your opportunity there. You didn't take damage, but you did take a shot from the 7-1 because you poked over there. Should probably repair your damaged gun. Any minute now. Or not. So when you're in this area here, it's not too bad. You can use these bushes for concealment. There's a little ridge right here you can use for cover. But the goal of this position is to try and... Let's go back into marker mode. You're trying to provide cover to here and proxy spot this area, okay? You don't want to try and shoot the guys that are coming up over here unless they're being really peeky pokey. And you want to try and provide overwatch for your 252U. So the hope is that anybody that comes up here into proxy spot will be shootable by your STRV. Still not really sure what your T49 is doing. Some of these guys might figure it out and start looking back this way. But the idea is that by just providing vision to anybody that's getting into this ridge, will help you get more assist damage. It'll help your team try and clear out the few tanks that are over there. So overall, not too bad. You really don't need to move around all that much. You'll spot anybody that peaks up too high over here. You don't necessarily need to proxy this area. I mean, being concealed in these bushes and providing proxy and spotting in this area is fine. Okay, this, I'm sorry, I'm gonna point it out. Okay, you missed that shot. He's got 2 shots until he's dead. You missed that shot because you have a damaged gun. You have a clear kit, you definitely could have used it. This could have been a shot of damage that you just missed because you didn't repair. He still dies, which is fine, but just pointing out, you probably could have had an extra 240 damage there. You're poking again. Bad idea. You don't necessarily need to, right? Providing vision to these two guys doesn't really give your team anything. You didn't need to expose yourself that much to the STRV or the 7032s. One other thing I want to point out here, because you have the auto reloader, right? This guy is 412 health. On average rolls, in 2 shots, you will kill him. What I mean by that is that if you have shots on anybody out here, never shoot more than 1, because as long as you've got 2 in the chamber, if this guy pushes over, you can get that guy out of the game. So at this point, I would make sure that I hold 2 in the chamber for him and him alone. Again, I would still just be in that bush to the right, and I would just be sitting there. I wouldn't be moving around. There's not really a need to. Once that guy peeks up far enough to get shots, he's going to be spotted anyways. It's fine to get up by the train. It's fine to go up here and just poke your gun out. That's probably the safest way to do it, is from underneath the train. See, the STRV-81 is still getting shots on you. If you had stayed in this bush here, right here, he may not have spotted. You might not have even be spotted right now. And there is that little ridge. Let me see if I can just, there we go. There is like a little tiny ridge here. You're not going to be perfectly concealed. You're not going to be totally unshootable from here, okay? But just like we talked about in the lesson of the survivability onion, don't get spotted. And then next is, if you are going to be spotted, create a small profile. If you use this ridge and pull your tank underneath it, you will effectively create a small profile. The STRV-81 can still hit you, can still easily pen you, but they're less likely to, which is that much more of an advantage when you're sitting in this area. You're down by a few tanks. Your SU-101 is poking up, but your team doesn't want to support them. They're falling back to try and support you. So it's actually your job to just try and sit here for as long as you can and support that object and prevent people from diving on him. See? That should be assist damage that you're getting, but I think the 252U is spotting him. Yeah, it's a little scary to work this ridge line. Oh, this guy's gonna dive on you. Okay. We're gonna rewind this real quick because I want to see where you're aiming. So what's really good is that he's tracked in the open. What's really bad is he's probably got a kit up. So let's just rewind this real quick. That'll work. What you should be doing in that scenario is aiming for track shots. Because you want, if he gets down into that dip with you, he's gonna out DPM you. Again, fix your gun. I know you probably forgot, and it's just one of those games where it's like, oh, I totally forgot. But usually it's instantly obvious when you've got a damaged gun. So he's coming over now. You gotta try and get him and keep him tracked in the exposed area. It's fine to dump all of the ammo that you've got to kill him. Because if he gets over and into your area, you know, you're gonna have to 1v1 him. He's got decent DPM. So here's the thing. I don't want to be mean, but what happened right there is he popped over, he got tracked by somebody else, he used a kit and got damage on you. You know that he just shot at you, okay? He cannot get more damage on you until he's reloaded. You can dump all 3 of your shells on him before he can fire his next round. What you should do is probably only fire your 1-shot reload, that 1 shot, and then fire that 1 shot again, and then dump. Unless he takes damage from somewhere else. I would be trying to track him in this scenario. You should be in sniper view. You should not be moving. You should just be trying to get penetrating shots here. But you see you're in third-person view, kind of rushing it. He's not going to reload before you. You have all the time in the world that you could have spent killing him. I think you took damage from one other location. But yeah, you could have spent a lot more time focusing on him. It probably wasn't a horrible idea to try and dump all 3 shots, but you could have had a repaired gun. You could have been in sniper view, and that could have been another 3 shots of damage. Instead, I think you only penned 1 there. So another thing to remind yourself, you know, if he's fired, you now have a chance for unreturnable damage, even though you just took damage. So, you know, he would have had that 390, right? And then you would have had your 3 shots of 240, which is still, you know, a good trade. In this scenario, it's not great because you're trading a dead tank for a not dead tank. But at this point, I know you're out. The game is still winnable for your team. I doubt they're going to pull it together because this T-49 is not helping your team win at all. The T-54 is moving in to try and kill this 112 and take this area back from the team. These guys are all fine in the location they're playing. The 252U is fine. What you really need is this T-49 to shoot up into this bush or this bush. He will extend the view range well, not that far, but he'll extend your view range to a decent distance. Okay, T-49s have great view range. Okay, concealment. As long as he's behind a bush, he should be fine, right? And now if somebody tries to roll into this area and shoot or get spotted or whatever, if he gets spotted, you know, well, at least these guys are probably out of... There's too many undulating hills. They might not have line of sight to whatever he spots. But yeah, so unfortunately, you didn't get the rest of the replay on this one. I think you exited the game in a couple minutes here, but just want to thank you for sending this in. Hopefully you guys liked it. A little bit of a coach's breakdown. My plan in the future is to try and wrap my Learn to Play guide into these replay reviews. We'll see how it goes, but thanks for your replay, Rob, and we'll see you guys in the next review.